Hi class, and welcome to this video, which is part of the VCE Year 12 Economics suite of videos. We're focusing on Unit 4 Outcome 1 today and budgetary policy, and it's our final video on budgetary policy, where at the end of it, we're going to consider the strengths and weaknesses of budgetary policy in achieving our goals. So if you look at our key knowledge summary, our list of our key knowledge points, you can see it is at our final one. There's going to be a lot of assumed knowledge that you have understood the theory of budgetary policy. You understand a budget deficit, a surplus, expansionary, contractionary budgets, the impact, stabilize, those sorts of things. So you might want to come back to this one at the end, but it should be a really short video. As I said, we're going to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of budgetary policy on achieving the goals and living standards. And we know, because we're an expert, because we've been doing this for ages now, the macroeconomic goals of Australia are to have low inflation, strong and sustainable GDP, or strong and sustainable economic growth. And finally, our third one is that we will have full employment. And we do these things because we assume that if we do these, we will maximize our living standards. So before we go to the next slide, and there's only one slide to look at with a summary, I want you to have a think and even pause this video and go, what do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of budgetary policy to achieve these things? You're an expert at now. What makes budgetary policy effective at achieving these goals? What makes it not effective? To summarize, there are strengths and weaknesses. The strengths of budgetary policy, so using the budget to achieve our goals, is the government can make decisions. So they can target their policies to particular industries. And this is unlike monetary policy, which is about raising and dropping interest rates, which we'll talk about in future videos. For example, we can assist the tourism industry or the airline industry during COVID. Many would say that it is a better budgetary policy is better able to target a greater range of economic goals than monetary policy. For example, the budget can address income inequality and the impact that this has on living standards and other priorities, while monetary policy is going to impact the economy more generally. So if we're to summarize these, the budget can be more targeted. Another advantage, it does not take long for the impact to be visible. So we would say in technical terms, the impact lag is short, because if we've identified an issue, we want to address it quickly. And particularly through the use of automatic stabilizers, it can assist the cushioning of downturns and make sure our peaks are sustainable without actually doing anything deliberately. They're automatic. And we also know budgets are relatively effective in stimulating aggregate demand during a downturn. They can be quite effective. The impact lag can be short even with discretionary stabilizers, where we're trying to impact and stimulate and grow the economy, because it can be immediate or as quickly as possible. For example, tax bonuses should pretty quickly increase spending. So hence, we can be quite quick due to the budget, and this is summarized here in that automatic stabilizers are automatic. They're inbuilt into the system. We don't have to do anything. The other good thing about budgets is that a responsible budget can assess the policies that have been put in place. So they can tweak them and remove them if they've been ill-designed and not being effective to achieve our goals. And the budget is open to public scrutiny. The budget anyone can read. We can download it. Some videos have included parts of the budget. Not only that, if you really dislike a government's budget, you get a chance to vote them out every 4 years. So this theoretically, and in reality probably does, ensures that there is a high degree of accountability and transparency in the decisions. In a democracy, you get to see the public budget, you get to argue it, and if you disagree, you can drive change. So what are the issues with it? It sounds like the budgetary policy is great. The budget is made by political parties and governments, and hence the political process and the issues with politics can also make some weaknesses of budgetary policy. For example, the budget can be subject to political hurdles that prevent policies put into place. So, because of a democracy, the budget must be approved in the different houses, House of Representatives and Senate. And even things that many would argue would be beneficial for our economy, the carbon tax was something that was beneficial, many would argue, when it was put in place, politically can sometimes be removed, like the carbon tax, because of political manipulation, political goals. Hence, the budget can be prone to political bias, definitely around election time, where people will potentially start to buy votes through the budget, particularly those marginal seats. And another example is the super profit tax, which was going to be put onto mining companies to increase the receipts from those, was overturned due to lobbying, even though, in my opinion, it probably would have been a good thing for our economy. Now, discretionary policies may actually take a while to be put in place if they're a little bit contentious, a little bit not clear-cut whether they're a good idea or not. This is because, as I said, budgetary policies that have been put in place to change something must pass the Houses of Parliament. So if the politicians don't agree, it can be very slow. Another weakness is that the policies and the budget itself only happens once a year. The budget only is announced once a year in May, and only rarely will there be changes or mini budgets. So this can mean that it can be sometimes a bit inflexible and slow to recognise the need to change. For example, if something happens in June and July, you might have to wait all the way till May for it to be addressed in the budget, unless the government is going to do something outside the budget, which they do, but still it means that it's only really looked at once a year compared to monetary policy, which happens monthly. Also, while budgets are great for stimulating aggregate demand during a downturn, there is a school of thought that they are not that effective at restricting aggregate demand during a boom. And actually, monetary policy raising interest rates is a much better way to stabilize a boom and get it starting to get back down to something that is sustainable. This is particularly because governments aren't keen to do what often should be done at that stage, which is put in surpluses, maybe raise taxes or reduce spending, because that's not politically a good idea sometimes. So lots of strengths, lots of weaknesses. We could perhaps summarize them that budgets can be targeted if in many ways the impact can be quick, and they can be changed, the policies, and they're open to public scrutiny. The weaknesses is that the budget is made by political parties and is subject to political hurdles and biases, and can be a bit slow, particularly for discretionary policies if the politics or the timing isn't ideal. Now, I hope that you found this useful and it's as a good way to summarize budgetary policy, because it's our final video on it. And I hope that it has helped you think about the strengths and weaknesses of budgetary policy and how it impacts and how it is a way or a mechanism to achieve Australia's government's macroeconomic goals of full employment, low inflation, strong and sustainable economic growth. And if we do this effectively, achieving strong living standards.